Okay, I really thought my next video was going to be another cooking one, but I've had some requests to make a video of how to make Atlatl darts, so here we go. Supplies are pretty simple. You're going to need some feathers. I like these craft ones because they're really bright and colorful. You're going to need some kind of string, could be kite string, could be this kind of string, really anything. Elmer's glue and super glue are not required, but they definitely make it easier, and I'm going to show you the easy way first. And then the dart is made out of a 1/2 inch, 6-foot dowel. That's a 1/2 inch, 6-foot pine dowel. You can get them at Menards and stuff for about $2. So I'm going to show you first how to lay out the feathers. Okay, here we've got the feathers laid out, and as you can see, the feathers have a curve to them based on which wing from the bird they came from. These are the ones that are curving this way, and I've got these that are curving this way. We're going to need 3 of them, and what we're going to do is we're going to split them, and we're going to use one side, and we can use the other side as well for the fletchings on the dart. So since I've got a perfect even 3, I'm going to start with these. Okay, here we've got the feathers laid out, and as you can see, the feathers have a curve to them based on which wing from the bird they came from. These are the ones that are curving this way, and I've got these that are curving this way. We're going to need 3 of them, and what we're going to do is we're going to split them, and we're going to use one side, and we can use the other side as well for the fletchings on the dart. So since I've got a perfect even 3, I'm going to start with these. All right, we're going to zoom in here on one, and as you can see, we've got this little vein that kind of runs down the middle. This is what we're going to split the feather along. So I'm going to take my pocket knife here, and I'm just going to press down until it splits through. I'm going to pull it through one side, then I'm going to flip it around. I'll put it on that same spot and pull it through the other side, and we're going to get this split into 2 halves. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but you'll be surprised at how easy it is to split. Okay, here we go. We've got it split, and you'll see we have kind of the thin side and the thick side. We can use each of these, but we want to make sure that we're using the same side from the feathers. That way we have even fletchings. So I'm going to go with these ones. So we're going to put this over in the pile to use on a different dart. I like to lift the knife out of the groove from time to time just to make sure that I'm following the middle of it. It seems to work a little bit better, although most of the time you can just pull it straight through. And then once you get to where you don't feel that groove anymore, you can just stick it through, like so. Then we'll come back here. Remember, I've pushed through on all of that, so it's usually pretty simple. Just work our way through. Easy. Okay, so we've got the 3 of them set. Now what we're going to do is we're going to line them up, and I'm going to cut them to the same length. What I want is I want these to be about even. I don't want this super thin part, so I want to come back to about there. So I'm going to end up trimming a little bit there. Down here, we want not this super thick part, we want about from here to here. So first I'm going to do is trim to the same length, and then I'll show you how we prep them from there. Okay, this is where it starts to get a little messy. We get a little bit of this floofy stuff, but vacuums and sweeps up easy enough. So I've got these 3 cut to the same length. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to trim out about a 1/2 inch of these, the veins off of there, and about a 1/2 inch of that on every end, because that's how we're going to lash this to the dart. So I'm going to trim that and show you. Okay, so here they are trimmed. You can see we've got a little bit of space there, a little bit of space here on every single one. All we do is we just cut it off. You can use scissors, what have you. Sometimes I just rip them off. What this is going to do is this is where the string is going to lash this on the dart to start with, then we spiral wind it, and then we lash it again on the end. So we want them about even. We're not terribly worried about how big these are. There's plenty of feather here to give that wind resistance to make the dart perform well as it's going down. So there's a traditional way to do this and the easy way, and we're going to start by doing the easy way. Okay, so here we have one of those 1/2 inch, 6-foot dowels. This is going to be the shaft of the dart. And we want to put a mark about 3/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch from the edge here, because that's going to be the limit of where we want these feathers to be attached, because we want a little bit just here on the end to make that divot for the tine. We also want just a little bit of space to where once we wind that string, there's a little bit of that exposed shaft. This is just like on a regular arrow where you have the end of the vanes or the fletchings, and then you've got a little bit of arrow, and then you've got the knock. So we're going to mimic that. I'm going to show you how we do that. Okay, so we've got our mark there. What we're going to do is we're going to hold the feather up to that, and then we're going to come down and we're going to make a mark right there to show us where we want to start. Okay, so we have a mark here and a mark there, and that roughly corresponds with the length of our feather. So we have the attachment point there. Now, normally what I would do is I would just take some of the string and lash here, and then tie it really tight, and then just start lashing all three of them and spiral wind them together. But that is really hard for beginners, so we're going to grab some of the super glue, and what we're going to do is we're going to slowly attach that and glue this all the way along. But you'll notice this has a curve to it, so when we set it down, it doesn't want to lay flat. As we glue this down, it's going to naturally curve around the shaft. That's what's going to cause some spin and help with our trajectory as this flies through the air. This is just like on a regular arrow. This is also why we wanted to make sure that all of these were curving in the same direction. So I'm going to take the super glue and just very gently line this one up, and then we'll use it as a guide for the rest. So here we've got the super glue, and we've got about the first inch or so glued down. So now I'm going to go every inch or so, and I'm going to put a dot, lay it down, put a dot, lay it down. I'm not worried about straightening everything, I just want to press it down, and as I press that feather down against it, it will naturally curve. So here's the first feather, it's glued down, and as you can see, as we pressed it down, it took a natural spin. So now we're going to put the others and we're going to glue them down. We're just going to follow the curve of this one. Since they were very similar looking and all curved the same way, we should get something that's pretty close. Again, if it's a little bit off, not the end of the world. We want to try and keep these spaced out at 1/3 intervals, and I'll get the next one on. There's number 2. Okay, so here's all 3. As you can see, we didn't quite get it perfectly third. There's a little bit of a flat spot here. That's not really going to be a big deal. What we're going to do now is we're going to cut about 3 feet of the string, and we're going to show you how to tie that on. Again, I don't normally do this, but the super glue definitely helps because now these feathers are held in place. As you get better practice at this, you won't need to make this step. Okay, so now we're going to tie this on right about here. Doesn't really matter how you do it. I like to do a little bit of a clove hitch here. And then we're just going to kind of scoot it up right to the edge of these guys here. Okay, and that's tight. Now all we're going to do is start wrapping. And we want to keep the tension going. This is what's going to provide a lot of support for these guys. And once you get to the first bit of feather here, now we're going to take it at a little bit of an angle, and we're going to go right about there. And when we get to this, just kind of press it in. We're going to pull that through in a minute, but I want to keep a similar angle as we go through. And you can see we've got a nice curve going there. Keeping a fairly good angle. Might have gotten a little there. And then when we get all the way up to the end, we come through, and then we're just wrapping these around again a couple of times. Doesn't take a lot. Okay, and we're coming to the end. So now come here around, and we're just going to do a half hitch because we're going to be gluing this tight. So we don't need to worry too much about being precise. Again, if you get better at this, you can do this entirely without glue. Do one. Again, pull that tight. We've got just enough to come through again and tuck it in right here. Sometimes if you're like me and cut it a little too short, you have to kind of tuck it in. We'll get this tight and then come back. Okay, so 2 half hitches, and we've got that nice and tight. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to take anything really, a pencil, and I'm going to come and just pull the feathers through that are being held down. A little bit like that. And don't worry if you don't get them all, because as soon as this gets thrown the first time, they're going to kind of all fuzz and pull out into their positions. Not a problem. The beautiful thing about Atlatls is if it looks a little more rustic, it just looks a little more authentic. Of course, you want to make sure that the super glue is fully dried. That way it's not grabbing onto any of these. Looks like we got a few spots here where maybe the super glue wasn't as fully dried. There we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take some of the Elmer's glue and we're going to saturate here and we're going to saturate there and really let that sink in, and then we can even put a little bit along the edge. And we'll just rub it in like so. And then once it fully dries, we'll come back and we'll snip this little tag here and then the little tag there. Looking pretty good. Now we still need to put a little divot here on the end for the tine to go into. And the shafts you need to protect with something, boiled linseed oil, polyurethane. I've put a coat of Linwax on this. That's my favorite because it gets a little bit of penetration but then a little bit of surface protection. Now when we get all the way to the end, you've got some options. Traditionally, this would be where your flint-napped arrowhead would go. If we really want the physics to perform, we need some kind of weight on this end. This can be maybe a 1/2-inch strip of duct tape that you just put in, maybe make it a 1/4 inch thick right here on the end. That'll give a little bit of weight, but still have time for this to penetrate. Most of the time, though, I'm shooting so narrow at targets that I just round off this edge. We don't want to make it pointy. These things have plenty of force to puncture into an archery target just blunt, but I'll show you how I round the edge to kind of protect the point. Okay, all we're going to do is we're going to carve off a little bit here just to kind of prevent the edges from catching. And it doesn't take much. So Here, we've got it rounded. This is plenty. We don't need it pointy. Looks like we've got a little bit of a crack starting here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue in there to support that. We probably won't see much of an issue with this because the force is going to be concentrated right here, but this is a potential fault point. If you bought 5 or 6 of these darts, this might be one that you'd throw away, or just use this for simple practice, saving some better ones. Not uncommon to have some imperfections, and you can do a lot of that by paying attention at Menards or wherever you're buying these to look for those. I just missed this. So here we've got the end where we need to put that little divot. I'm going to take a pencil here and I'm going to try and make a mark just so I can see where the center is, because I used to use an awl, or you still can for that matter, and just carve that out with a pocket knife, but I've found that a drill bit works a lot better and it's easier. Alright, well, X marks the spot. I've got a 1/4 inch drill bit. I'm going to drill in not that deep, maybe 1/8 of an inch at the most. I'm going to go slow. I've got the drill on a lower than usual setting so that I can guide this in. And just be careful with this because we're going to be grabbing. We don't want to grab around these fletchings. We're going to grab down here, which is nice because it's going to be getting your hand a little farther away from that drill bit. So here we go. We've got a little bit of a divot, not terribly deep, just a little bit, just something for that tine to catch. And that's it. We have one finished Atlatl dart. We've got that nice fletching. We've got the dimple on the end, and we took the very end and rounded it just a little bit. This is what I do most of mine for programming. Again, if you add a little bit of weight to the end of this, the physics will really give you the advantages. You can get some points for the end, or learn how to flint knap and make your own. I'll do a quick shot here with what I would recommend for the duct tape. So here I've taken some duct tape and wrapped it on a couple layers, you know, just to add a little bit of weight. We're about 3 inches from the end. This is plenty of space for it to puncture into a target and hold. We could even claim that this stops over penetration from occurring. But really what this is weight that counteracts and resists movement, so that way it forces the dart to flex and storing that spring energy. This is the same reason why even when you have field points on an arrow for target shooting, you have a weight to that 100 grains, 125 grains, etc. So we're adding weight to this end. You can get some field points for these. Last I knew they were a little too expensive for me, and for my purposes I don't usually put this on because I'm shooting at targets that are 20 to 30 feet away. But this definitely improves accuracy and allows you to get a lot more speed if you do this simple addition. So there you have it. Let me know what you think.